guys, and welcome to this full build of these DUNE miniature kits by Meng. The range includes an ATREIDES ornithopter, HARKONEN ornithopter, and of course the spice harvester. These kits are small, they're quick, and didn't quite warrant a video each, so I decided to do all three in one. Starting with the harvester, lots of trades to do in this guy. It's basically a snap kit, super easy to do, nice and quick. All in all, there's 16 of these little guys. Then it's about putting the harvester itself together. As I said before, it's a fun, quick build, some nice detail, and fun little project for a weekend. Now on to the HARKONEN ornithopter, which is my favourite one. Again, not many pieces. It's a snap kit, although the appendages underneath do require some glue. Together, just be careful. Putting the tail on is a bit too much of a tight fit. I ended up cracking the tail section, forcing this piece on. So just be wary of that. Nothing a little sanding and glue can't fix. First it's the undercarriage. Again, everything goes together quite nicely. Now, the hardest thing about this kit by far are these articulating joints for the blades. I was really worried I was gonna break something. Eventually I had to sand each one down a little bit, and it also hurts your fingers putting them in. But in the end, they do fit quite nicely, and it's articulating, so that's always a good thing. And now onto the ATREIDES ornithopter, and this is basically the same kit. It's a slightly smaller craft, but primarily the same layout in terms of pieces. Having learned my lesson about the tail, a little bit of sanding ahead of time, and this time it fit on nice and snug, no breaks. Done the HARKONEN one, the process of putting on the blades was much easier and quicker. A little bit of sanding just to remove the flash of the joints helps them fit into their holes much easier. Okay, inevitably it's painting time. I'm going to paint the harvester first and coat it with some black gloss primer to begin with. Same goes for both ornithopters. In my estimation, the harvester and the ATREIDES ornithopter seem to have a similar color, dark slate matte black. So I'm going to mix a green brown with flat black at a ratio of about 40 and 40. After that, I tweaked it with another 20% of a color called Middlestone. This is of course in Vallejo Model Air. So to paint the HARKONEN ornithopter, I struggled a little in terms of reference, but pouring through frames from the film, it looks quite a lot lighter. So what I've done is taken the mix from the previous two models, and I'm adding Vallejo Model Air US Desert Armor at a ratio of about 30% to 70% Desert Armor. And this seemed to give me the light color of the HARKONEN ornithopter. I'm eye matching everything, but I think these work quite well. And now to seal everything in with a gloss coat. Done that, time to put treads back on. time for decals. There's very few of them, but they're easy enough. Of course, using some microsol, soften the decals to the form of the models. My least favorite thing about these kits. Both ornithopters have horrible decals for the windows. The color of the frames on the top window just doesn't feel right. I'm going to try correct it, but it was a bit of a mess. Given that I was determined to spend a limited amount of time on these, it is what it is. Now for a quick wash with Vallejo's wash. Dab this on, let it of course sink into all the details. And after about 5 minutes, I'm going to use some airbrush thinners to wipe the excess away. One thing to be careful of with the airbrush thinners is that you don't overwork it and eat right through your varnish. Okay, now to apply some matte varnish to seal all that work in, and I'm using Tamiya's aerosol flat coat, which is incredibly flat. Having done that, time to do some weathering, which I was looking forward to on the Harvester especially. If you've seen me do this before, you'll know I start by wetting the surface with some odorless thinners from AK. Having done that, I start dabbing some oil color on there. I'm using a generic sand color. Dab it on in patches and then work it on with another brush. The odorless thinners is still a bit thick and heavy, so the brush strokes are in there, but they dry quite quickly, especially with the flat coat. Once those strokes aren't visible, the weathering will start feeling quite natural. Eventually in the sides it becomes a bit of a dry brush exercise to highlight all this wonderful detail in the front of the kit. My thinking in this is that, again, looking at all the reference from the movie's assets and renders, the sand gets kicked up from underneath, so the build-up really comes from bottom to top on a gradient, from like thick and heavy at the bottom to less at the top. So I'm working very much in that way. After a general dry brush, I dab on more paint and apply it from the bottom up. But then also there's that sand that's kind of settled in the crevices, so I'm dabbing some of this color into little crevices and spaces, and I'll dry brush that down very gently. Don't want to overwork it, less is more. Also applying a little bit of rust, some reddish, brownish rust, which is again what I can see in the reference from the film. This might be the spice, who knows? But good to have different tones of color in there. Now here you can see I'm working upward brush strokes, and this is again to represent that buildup of sand from being kicked up from the bottom up. Every now and again I'm going to clean this brush so that I'm getting that dry brush effect where I can. I think it's important to quit while you're ahead. As soon as it's feeling it's pretty good, I'm going to stop, because it would be very easy to overwork this if I haven't done so already. So here is also something I'm seeing in the reference from the film, is a very nice buildup of sand that's come to rest in the panel lines. So using smaller brushes to recreate that effect. And just a little bit of dry brush afterwards, just to work it in. Pretty happy with what I'm seeing so far. I think it's gonna work out nicely. So yeah, I think really it's just about considering the physics of what's happening, you know, how this stuff would pile up, and recreating that, and also just analyzing what you see in the reference. Again, little spot colors of more spicy orange and brown pigment, just to mix things up. Now onto the ornithopter. And, this is definitely going to be a less is more exercise, so really just dry brushing. Very careful not to overwork this, because at the end of the day this ornithopter is a darker color than the Harkonen. To weather this guy, and this one probably going to have the least of all amount of work, but using the light sand actually had a pleasing effect for me, really articulating the details. Pretty happy with that. I think I'm going to call that a day. One of those coats of Tamiya's aerosol flat varnish. and my attempt to just try correct this decal color to the paint that I used on the models. My brushwork really wasn't good enough, so what I did is used a black pen, which I've neglected to film, clean up the lines, and now I'm just going over the windows with acrylic gloss varnish from Vallejo. Since the kits don't have glass, at least make it feel like the glass is still shiny. Last thing I'm doing is dry brushing a little bit of Vallejo steel metallic paint onto just some of the edges of the harvester. With all that said and done, here's my reveal. I decided to do a little bit of VFX in my spare time and make these things feel like they're on Arrakis. Thanks so much for watching. Appreciate your time. Look out for more builds coming soon, and we'll see you soon.